Quartering Act, Document 1. Quarterman Act from Jamestown Yorktown Foundation. Read the following document below and answer the analysis questions that follow. During the French and Indian War, British military commanders in North America often found it difficult to persuade the assemblies of some uncooperative colonies to pay for the cost of housing and supplying food for the soldiers sent over to fight in France. Once the war had ended, the king's advisors decided that some British troops should remain in North America to defend colonists from further attacks by the Native Americans. The Quartering Act of 1765 required colonial governments to provide and pay for feeding and sheltering any troops stationed in their colony. If enough barracks were not made available, then soldiers can be housed in inns, stables, and outbuildings, uninhabited houses, or private homes that sold wine or alcohol. American colonies resented and opposed the Quartering Act of 1765 because they were being taxed by the colonial governments to pay for the provisions and barracks for the army. Many American colonists saw the Quartering Act as one more way Parliament was attempting to tax them without their consent. Many suspected that real purpose of keeping a small standing army in America stationed in cities, not on the frontier, was not for defense, but to enforce new British policies and taxes such as the Stamp Act and Sugar Act. They felt threatened by the constant presence of the standing army, fearing that the army might randomly attack or harass them. Question 1. Sourcing. Is this a primary source or secondary source? Question 2. Close reading. What did the Quartering Act of 1765 require? Question 3. Close reading. Why did the king's advisors decide that some British troops should remain in North America? Question 4. Close reading. What did some colonists suspect the real purpose of keeping a small standing army in America? Document 3. Document analysis. Benjamin Franklin, letter to Henry Home, Lord Camas, 25th of February, 1767. Excerpts on the Quartering Act and the resurgence tension between two countries. I have mentioned that the tensions between Britain and America is like to be revived. It is on this occasion, in the same session of Parliament, with the Stamp Act, an act was passed to regulate the quartering of soldiers in America. The bill passed with a clause that emptied houses, barns, etc. should be hired for them, and that the respective colonies where they were located should pay the expenses and furnish heat, bedding, food, drink, and some other articles to the soldiers for free. There is no way for any colony to do this but by the raising taxes. Pennsylvania has made such a law raising taxes. New York Assembly has refused to do it. The reasons given by the governor of New York for the refusal are, firstly, that they understand the act to mean the furnishing such things to soldiers only while wartime and not to great regiments of soldiers to be fixed as a present in the colony during the peacetime. The burden in the second case being greater than inhabitants can bear for it so costly. Secondly, that it would put it in the power of the Captain General of the British Army to oppress the colonists at pleasure. But there is supposed to be another reason, at bottom, which they suggest, though they do not plainly express, that it is of the nature of the eternal tax laid on them by the Parliament, which has no right so to do without representation for the colonies in Parliament. In the meantime, every act of oppression will sour their tempers and hasten their final revolt, for the seeds of liberty are universally sown there, and nothing can eradicate them. Question 1, sourcing. Is this a primary source or a secondary source? Question 2, close reading. Did all the colonies agree to pay for the quartering of soldiers? Cite textual evidence to support your claim. Question 3, close reading. What is Benjamin Franklin warning will happen at the end of the excerpt? Question 4, corroboration. Does this primary source support the colonists' feelings about the Quartering Act as stated in the Quartering Act Document 1? Cite textual evidence from both sources to support your claim.